We are back in studio. You recognize this dude from Willis, Texas. We were just talking about his Houston area roots. Chris Platt, dude. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Chris, I want to ask you, I got to dip in to that experience of yours. We were just talking about the Sixers are playing. Yeah. They're playing terrible. All right, so I'm not going to ask you about X's and O's or stats, but they're 2-11. Mm-hmm. And after the game, when they lost to Miami to become the worst team in the league along with the Wizards, they had a closed-door meeting. It was like an hour. Right, where apparently Tyrese Maxey called out Joel Embiid. He said, hey, like, you're not here on time. When you are here on time, you're not in shape. You're not going 100%. Yeah. Like, as somebody who's been around, you played 6 years of big-time college football, dude. Like, what happens in those meetings? And do you have any experience with anything like that?
Oh, yeah, of course. For somebody like that, like Tyrese Maxey, to do something like that, that kind of just tells you that, like, he really wants to win. And he's not afraid to hold people accountable. That's the person that you need on your team. Like every winning team that's good, it's a player-based team, not a coach-led team.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of tired of it. I mean, I would be too. Like if I'm losing and I know my star player isn't putting the worth of effort to go out there every day and put his body on the line like I am, I'd be fed up too. So I think that he kind of met his boiling point, and he just had to sit them all down to tell them what it is and what it need to be better throughout the season.
Who was the voice, and it quite possibly could have been you or some others, like, that kept that Baylor locker room on track? You played for 3 head coaches, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a lot of change. Mm-hmm. Like, how did you guys stay on track when Matt Rule comes on board? Before too long, you're playing in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, what was going on? Who was policing your locker room?
Taylor Young. One of those guys that, like, I mean, everybody loved what he did in the off season. So he not only told us like how things need to go, but he also led by example. So he was one of those guys that, like, when I look back how we went up into the Big 12 championship game, like, it's because of what that 17 senior leadership team did to ground us, even though that we were doing really bad, to show us the way how it is. Because they also were freshmen when they won the first Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
Then they won it back-to-back. T. Young was on that team. He was starting. So if you're a young guy, you're looking up to those guys when you're recruiting. You're like, okay, this guy's been there. He's done that. So when he's telling me certain things about, like, what I need to do, how I need to do it, I'm going to listen. So it was very, I would say it was good to us to have them during that time in our period.
When you right now, I mean, you're still very close to the sport. You're training guys, and women, like you're training young athletes though who are moving towards, Division I play, and there's NIL, there's the transfer portal. Do you think the direction, like, where are we headed with that?
I think for these first couple of years, it's been kind of just everywhere. I think well, you see some guys like that quarterback from
dude, the recruit,
UNLV,
yeah, oh yeah, just leaving,
leaving, and then a couple of other guys are just leaving. I think the NCAA are trying to police it a little bit. I don't know what direction they might go, but I feel like they're gonna, like, have more like a contract. I saw that they got rid of the NLI.
Yeah.
So that's just out the window. So I feel like it'll be more like you're a pro. Like, here's a contract. You're here for a certain amount of years, and if you break it, I don't know what that stipulation would be, but I feel like they need to find a way to kind of police this thing to where it's not so common for people to just quit on their team and just head out.
That's what honestly I was hoping for a little bit with Baylor. I was like, well, maybe by the time they get to Kansas, they'll have guys just leave for the draft or whatever.
Yeah.
But they seem like they're sticking together. Mm-hmm. On the field. You played 57 games, 6 mm-hmm. years. You dealt with a debilitating injury and you bounce back, you come back. There's got to be a ton of stuff with that, right? Mm-hmm. Like off the field. How did you navigate that? As a young man whose life is football, you're also track star, but your wheels are a big part of what you're doing. Yeah. How did you find your way through all that?
First, my faith in God, and also just my support system. They played a major role in that. I don't think at that point in time I was as close to God than I was after the fact. So sometimes when you're getting, just ahead of yourself, he just does something to you in your life to make you slow down a little bit and just kind of just go back to him. So I would say number one is just my faith in God, and number two is my support system. Over the times, I don't know if y'all know this, but I went to Colorado that summer of 2017, and met a little small family from Missouri, and their two little boys, and somehow somebody from Baylor saw the post that I put up on Facebook and connected me with those guys after the fact. And so they were following the Baylor games. They saw I got injured. And after I got injured, two of the little boys, they wrote me some notes here and there, like every other week, drawing like little portraits of me, and sending me letters, just words of encouragement throughout the whole season. And then eventually that story came out, and I was able to bring them back to a Baylor game during the Duke game at home.
Yeah.
But stuff like that is just, especially like when you're in a very dark place. It was my first ever major injury. Just people.
You don't know the support that's out there. Like
No.
there's a lot of negativity out in the world, but like there's a lot of love too.
Yeah.
And it feels pretty good
Mm-hmm.
when you're reminded about it in your times of darkness.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's an amazing story about how you guys as a squad and as a program turned it around. You were also there for some dark times in the history of Baylor football, and then you guys made it out to the light. And now your senior year, dude, I mean, it was amazing. What was it like to be a part of that roller coaster ride and ultimately finish at a real high point?
It was, honestly, it was a very proud moment, because so 18 was supposed to be my last year. And then I got granted the 6th year because of my ACL. So just being able to see some of those guys that were younger than me just kind of develop, for me to be able to see how they develop, and just being a helping hand in that way. So in a sense, it was just a really proud moment, like a big brother moment, to see some of those guys when they came in, they're like, man, we got a long ways to go, to see where they were at that point in time and just to see where they are now in life. I think that was something really special.
For you, was there a moment, and you were instrumental in that 2019 season, but was there a moment for you where you were like, I never thought I would get back to this point, and you were like, I'm here now? Whether it was like some of the huge catches you had down the stretch in the season, you were in that overtime against TCU, like you made big plays at big times. Was there a moment where you were like, wow, I can't believe I'm back here?
I would definitely say it would probably be against Rice.
Yeah, early in the season.
That was like the 3rd game of the season.
You scored a huge touchdown that game, which people forget was a lot closer than you guys were looking for.
Yeah. It took a while. I would say I scored off of a reverse against UTSA. And that 3rd game against Rice is where I caught a ball. It was a post down the middle for about 70 something yards. So it just felt good to just be free again.
Yeah, I was thinking that word. I was thinking of that word.
Yeah.
You were running free, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a sprinter, how did that, when you don't see it as much, dude? Like as I'll broadcast games and you talk about a guy with track speed, but you don't necessarily talk too much anymore about guys doing both, right? Like in school. Like how did you pull that off?
Honestly, that first year I did it, it was pretty tough. The first year, because you do 3 sports in high school, that's no problem, but now you're in Power 5 football and track. So just to be able to keep up with that intensity and training every day, just doing fall camp, winter camp with football, and then going in spring football, and then going into spring track was a lot. So I initially pulled my hamstring my freshman year, and I was battling during track. Great support staff over there, and that at the track facility, and they got me right just in time for NCAAs.
Yeah.
So, but that whole first year, I was just trying to make sure that I was healthy enough to run a 400, and my hamstring was just giving out just constantly. But after that, talked to Coach Kaz, got me on a better plan to make
Coach
sure.
Kaz at TCU now. He's still doing his thing.
So he watched over me. Like literally, he watched over me during the spring, made sure I wasn't doing too much because he knew I was going to transition to track. And then if I did something at track, they would tell me they'll tell the football coaches, hey, he did this day. And then football would say, hey, he did this that day. So like the communication they had for me helped me a lot, and just really grateful for it.
What's the toughest part? Like you talk about the nerves, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're playing in the Sugar Bowl. You're lined up out there on an island, or you're getting ready to run the 100, right?
Yeah.
Where do you get more nervous?
I would probably say, so I was actually talking about this the other day. I would probably say it's pretty close. The only time I feel nerves in a football game, if it's down to the wire, third down, gotta have it, or a fourth down, game's over if you don't get this. Track, I would probably say the 4x4, of course, because that's what I run. But it's the last race of the day. All eyes are on you, and it's a team. It's not just an open 400 where it's just you. It's this team is depending on you to run this lap as fast as possible and to get that stick to the next person.
There's a lot of things, and a message like that brings me to my next question. I just like, what do you pass along to these young athletes that you work with outside of, tapping into your skill set and your experience on the field, right? Or on the track? What do you pass down to them?
Something that Coach Kaz has told us, kind of harped into us, is never get too high, never get too low, because as soon as something great can happen, something bad can happen as well. And I always like to share the series when I tore my ACL. Literally the series before I tore my ACL, I scored a touchdown. That next play of that next possession, tear my ACL out for the season. So I told them I was on the bench. I didn't kind of just get down on myself. I was still cheering on my teammates, not really knowing what was going on at the time, but just making sure that I'm always in the now, always be where your feet are.
And that you kind of go full circle, right? Like that faith, you don't know what your future is going to be, but that's where you kind of find that faith and you start to build on it, I would imagine. All right, what about Baylor now on the field? These guys have really turned it around. You watch Sawyer Robertson play. You watch guys like Josh Cameron play, Bryson Washington. What do you think about this team? Not only, dude, they're playing well in the trenches, but they got weapons. Like, what do you think is the toughest part to, like, what's the biggest weapon for Baylor right now?
Their biggest weapon right now is the run game, I think. And it's funny to say that, because if I would have said that at the beginning of the season, people would have looked at me crazy. But I think it's just the personnel that's in there, especially during that Colorado game. I remember watching it, and it was just like, why aren't these guys getting enough touches? It's like I've seen little spurts of them running, especially Pendergrass last year.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, why aren't we giving him the ball in the red zone? And it just didn't make sense to me. And then luckily they got their chance after that Colorado game, and you kind of seeing them flourish now with them getting more reps. So honestly, I love Washington and Pendergrass, but the one person I do feel for and kind of feel, because it kind of relates to me in a sense, is Richard Reese.
Yeah.
So
his
freshman year, it was like, okay, this dude's going to be
who's
good
rookie of the year,
while.
Big 12, all freshmen. Yeah.
And then that second year, we get a transfer, beats him out.
Yeah.
And you don't really see him get a lot of reps after that.
Yeah.
And then this year, he still doesn't really get a lot of reps. Is the 4 running back rotation.
Yeah.
And then now Richardson's out, and now these 2 other guys are really, really doing the job. And now he sees like maybe 2 or 3 touches.
Let me ask you something. Do you think, like, you were a kick returner and Richard Reese had 2 touchdowns returning kicks last year? Do you think that, like, they'll get him involved as the stakes continue to get higher in that return game?
I feel like he could right now if he wanted to.
Yeah.
I really feel like it. Like if he really wanted to, he would. But I really don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
What
right?
the coaches think or what they see. But I feel like if he really wanted to help this team out. I feel like if he were on special teams returning as well, it would help him out a lot.
He's a heck of a player. Great kid, too.
Yeah, he is.
Well, were you around for that reunion weekend a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I was.
What was that like? I mean, what a celebration!
Yeah.
Forget about all the crappy stuff. But Coach Briles is back. You guys celebrated him. He recruited you. There was a lot of love.
Yeah.
That weekend to be seen all over the place. What was it like to be a part of that?
It was phenomenal. It's just the heart is just so full because haven't seen these guys in like over 10 years. So it's like it's really good to see the guys that I haven't seen, but it's also good to connect to the guys that were seniors in that 13 team. And I was like a recruit going around, not really knowing them and just kind of hanging out with them too, like Eddie Lackey, C-Mac, like those guys.
Yeah.
And just to hear just them talking about like how they still followed and like just kept up with the season as I was going on. It's pretty funny. We're at the table that Friday at a banquet, and C-Mac is like, man, he's like, yeah, you were there a pretty long time, huh? I was like, look, it's just one extra year. It was only 6. Now it's just the norm.
Now it's the norm.
6 or 7, 8 years now. But it was really good. Coach Briles, I've seen a lot of people say that like they had to really double look because he doesn't look like how he used to. He has the full-on gray hair, just looks totally different from when they last seen him. But it was really good. Towards the end of it, before everybody kind of left before the game, everybody was able to, take the floor and just tell Coach Briles face to face how much they meant to him. So obviously it was really emotional, but I think it was really needed. And also Coach Briles, as you've probably seen some clips out there, he also said some things as well before we ended it. So it was such a great event to do. And shout out to Diane for putting that together because that was wonderful.
Can you describe the bonds that are built on a football team like that, especially someone who was a part of that for 6 years? You're going to battle with these guys. You're together 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And when you mention something like you just did, it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. It's so I mean, Coach Kaz, there's one person, Coach Kaz and Kendall and all those guys that are on the TCU staff that weren't able to come out with us, but Coach Kaz was the glue. Like he's the reason why we had the mentality that we did out there on the football team. So everybody thought we were just flashy here and flashy there, but we would be smash mouth tooth if we wanted to. And I mean, we got a running back that's top 5 all time in rushing yards for a reason.
Yeah.
That front line, like, he was not messing around with them. Like off season, he is into them because he knows it starts up front. So yeah, those battles that Coach Kaz got us prepared for in the off season is the reason why we're just so close today.
How did you end up going to Baylor? What was a deciding factor for you?
So I want to say, you might have to fact check me on this. It was my junior year. Football season was over with. It was like basketball season, probably like November-ish. And I got offered. Coach Briles called me. Literally, I'm in English class, and the principal's on the intercom like, hey, Chris has a call in the next 5 minutes. He needs to step out the class and pick up this phone. And so it's a 254 number. I'm like, who the heck is this? And then I pick up. He's like, hey, old Platt. Like, this is Coach Briles. He's like, hey, I just want to call you, let you know that we want to offer you. We'd love to get you down here in Waco again and see some games, and just make sure that you call your mom and dad and tell them the good news. And man, I was like on cloud 9. It was my first offer too. And man, that whole process was amazing. My first one, I went to homecoming against Iowa State. Then I went to the blackout game, Floyd Casey against Oklahoma.
Wow.
And like just seeing the atmosphere, that blackout game, I was like, okay, I definitely got to go here. It's like, I'm fine with that. Coach, I think, it wasn't. I forgot who it was. The receiver coach at the time at Tech.
Okay.
They were like, it was like between Baylor and Texas Tech, they were like sending me like full on notes and hitting my DMs and stuff like that. But I was like, man, Lubbock's far. Lubbock's far. It's like I really don't want to put the effort to actually go out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a high powered offense as well. And they called me. They're telling me like what my plan was for them. They're talking about, oh yeah, we want you to be inside, outside. some Wildcat. I was like, okay, all that sounds good, but that's Lubbock though. But it was a good experience. I went out there February for the junior day.
Okay.
And actually, that was my first time in campus and just seeing the facility, trying on the jerseys and all that stuff. Just seeing them. I guess it was the winter season. So just seeing them work out in the off season, it was like this feels like home to me. So that's right then and there. That next day after that pro day, maybe 2 days, I committed.
Do you understand all that you've given to Baylor too? Like, you know, a lot of times we look at like, wow, I was fortunate to be here and stuff, but like you gave a lot to the university and to your teammates and to the staff and administrators. Are you like me where it's like, no, I didn't do anything, or does it sink in?
Honestly, it doesn't as much. I mean, people tell me all the time, like, thank you for what you did at Baylor. Like, people that see me out in Waco when I'm out at George's or just somewhere random, maybe like Valley Mills Vineyard or something like that. And they're always telling me, thank you for what you did. And I'm like, man, all I did was just give my all. And that's all you could ever ask for me.
All right. Well, how about where can people find you? Like, I know you're training folks, like if they want to get in touch with you, how can they find you and get some help?
Yeah, I'm over at D1 Waco. It's off of Franklin.
Oh yeah.
So I'm a sports performance coach. So I teach adult classes, also train kids and adults, depending on what your goals are. But do that over there at D1 Waco Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturdays.
Chris Platt, you are the man. I really appreciate you coming in.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, that is Chris Platt. That was the Pete Sousa Show. We'll see you back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Of course, thanks to Slovacic's, Crawford Austin Properties, D1, and everybody who's involved in making this thing happen. Have a great day.
It's the Pete Sousa Show.